This is, well, how the hell do I start these things again?
It's been a hot minute, man.
Oof.
So much has happened. I'm 6 months pregnant now. Well, I'm not, but anyways. Hello, and welcome to The Rules of Acquisition, a podcast where we're going through every single episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. My name is Wade Bowen. Oh, and this is like the greatest show ever or something. I usually say that.
It's very apt for today, I think.
Yes, my name is Wade Bowen, and with me, as always, is James Nolan.
Hey, guys.
And Hugh Crawford.
Hey, how's it going?
We are talking about an episode. Sometimes there's an episode, and this one is called Field of Fire. Is that right?
Yes, this is called Field of Fire. It's episode 13 on season 7. It originally aired February 10th, 1999. And here is the IMDb description. To find an apparently untraceable murderer, Ezri Dax reluctantly calls up the residual consciousness remnant of her symbiont's past hidden psychopathic murder host, Joran. How about that for a sentence?
Psychopathic murder host. Yeah.
This episode was garbage.
Oh my god,
But
this episode.
It was garbage with cool headgear,
Yeah.
so it's kind of a push.
James watched it before all of us, several weeks before, and he was like, oh my god, send us a clip. And I was like, oh, James is right, this is horrible. And then I watched it like before I went to bed one night, and I was like, yep, this is horrible. Then I watched it again tonight, and I was like, wait a minute, no, this isn't that bad. And then it hit, and like, oh, no. Oh, no. There's a certain point where it hits, like, oh, no, this is horrible. Oh, shit.
So the story with this episode is that it's a culmination of the last few weeks and next week's episode, because Prodigal Daughter was like a writing room nightmare, and it got collapsed in on itself like a dying star and then exploded in a quasar, and it killed people. And it was horrible. And Ronald D. Moore and David Weddle and Bradley Thompson was taken out of it. They couldn't. And then Ira Steven Behr and Hans Bimler were writing Emperor's New Cloak. Renee Echevarria was writing Chimera. So this episode was had to be parted out to what turns out to be like, a man whose esteem in this writing room is grown as he's left, which is Robert Hewitt Wolf. And he goes, it doesn't say this on Memory Alpha, but it's like, just write Silence of the Lambs with a character you've never heard of before. And he's like, okay. And they probably offered him, a month's rent or whatever to turn out like anything. And so Robert Hewitt Wolf did.
It felt like write a murder mystery, who done it, and then do this Duran thing, and then up until they bring Duran in, I was like, this is fine setup for like a murder on the Orient, who done it thing, and then Duran comes in. I was like, oh fuck, this sucks.
Like, I felt like it was beat for beat Silence of the Lambs, like it's two at a bear.
Oh, there's definitely some Silence of the Lambs.
I mean, almost like two at a bears.
Yeah, but he never escapes.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Which would have been cool.
If he had left her body,
or
he left her memory, and
right.
got out.
If he had uploaded his memory into like a hologram
and
or
then
something,
stole the worm, and that would have been great. No, yeah,
worm heist.
Yeah. I mean, the main problem with this episode, I think, is clearly Duran, right?
What is the main problem? I think the main problem is this is another episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine that has no interest in being Star Trek. This is a cheap Murder, She Wrote.
Right. It's another, I'm bringing Robert Hewitt Wolf back in. Oh, we were doing noir shit. I'll tell a noir mystery or something. Like, because, Odo even says, I've been reading a lot of crime novels or whatever. So I was like,
I read 20th century crime novels, Raymond Chandler, Mike Hammer, that sort of thing.
I did notice in that scene, Avery Brooks is really good at like reacting to people.
Yeah.
Or he's a really good listener actor.
Yeah.
Like whenever his character is supposed to be listening to what the other actor is saying, he's really good at that.
Well, that's really all they write for him to do. I mean, seriously, lately, it's just to be a reactor. I mean, we're in a long stretch of that. So.
He's the principal of the show. He's the principal. It
seems like it's a show about Ezri Dax. It seems like we
right.
are watching a show about Ezri Dax and a lounge singer.
It's such a crime because this is the first Star Trek where they've decided to make the captain not the focus. I mean, the captain's gone for 3 or 4 episodes you have these whole sections of Deep Space Nine that are about the bartender.
Right. Well, it's like it's bookended. Like, this is a show about the captain, but now we're in the middle and like, well, we need to give these other characters some time to shine. And so they forget entirely about the captain and write these bad, like, well, this is when we can just kind of sleepwalk through our scripts.
Or it's just a crisis room and everybody's having to throw in on the failed move. Ira Stephen Bear picked out like 15 movies from the blockbuster and said, you do Treasure of the Sierra Madre, you do The Conversation, and went through like everything, and then like all those scripts collapsed because they were brainless. Then you have a crisis, and then you have a slew of just disappointing episodes.
Yeah, and talk about like, oh, now it's a lounge singer and Dax. Like, you know, you got your Vegas lounge singer, and then you got a perfect opportunity in this episode to go back to Master Magician Jeff Magnus McBride, and you fuck it up
with the mask
because you don't think he can act well enough, and you get this guy who's like going straight out of like daytime soaps. I'm your evil twin brother, or you know, something.
I know how he thinks. We can catch him, Ezri, you and me together, and then we'll make him pay.
I think that and this is what I was thinking, because I was thinking, first off, because I was sort of focused on what a ripoff of Silence of the Lambs it is. It almost could have, like, the process of writing this script by Robert Hewitt Wolf was probably the same process that Asylum uses to write the salience of the limbs or whatever, like the thing that you put in like at your Kroger that's But like, anyway,
I mean, I got mostly the Silence of the Lamb and the characters. I didn't get the plot beats quite as much as you did.
I mean, you're hunting for a killer. You have to put yourself in the mind of the killer. So you go to a killer and then tic-tac, but like there's all this. So it's all that shit. So there's that. It's even to the point where she's looking through night vision goggles for a while. So there's a sequence even with night vision goggles.
Oh, right. Oh, good point.
I was thinking that the whole time. But one of the things I was like, did Anthony Hopkins like just ruin TV acting for the 90s? Because it seems like every time there is a villain in the 90s, they were slow talkers. And it seems like he was the first one to do that. Like in the way cocky businessmen were in the 90s, weird, creepy, slow talkers were that for the 90s. Or businessmen were the 80s in all the 80s movies. And like creeps were always the villains. Right. And that was one of the ways that they always classified that was by slow, just very methodical talking. And I think that a lot, probably because serial killers talk like that, and in real life, because they're kind of they're based. They've got mental issues. So, but it's such a bore. God, it's such a bore.
It's so bad. Yeah.
And there's no modulation or variation to it. It was just,
Oh, there's modulation. It's just over the top.
I mean, one of the highlights of this episode is whenever they're talking about Davey Crocket. That's how you know it's a bad episode. Whenever the scene that pops the most is the Davey Crocket conversation.
I was about to say, I didn't like mine. Oh, yeah, it did pop the most.
So Robert Hewitt Wolf gave himself 3 minutes to think of a reason why this guy's killing people. And he came up with Smile. And then he realized that was dumb, but his 3 minutes were over. And he gave himself 5 minutes to think of, how do I include this? And that's actually a little bit of skill, is that he has Duran say this, how could someone be so happy with such ugly children, or whatever he said. And that was like, that's a clever line to point out the smiling. So like,
well, you could go, if I'm going to, my overthinking English major hat, like the villain, this goes back to DS9 in this last season, framing Vulcans as bad guys, as in the and logic being the problem. Like the Vulcan, his logic somehow drives him to kill. All the Vulcans that we meet this season are kind of dicks or murderers. But
yeah, I do actually want to point out that and I'm pointing this out because it's so close to the episode The Long Night of Game of Thrones, and that it'll be coming out a week or so after that it says, according to Wolf, a Vulcan serial killer was chosen in order to shock viewers. That was the thought that was put into it.
That checks out.
I mean, this proves my point with allowing, a lot of people are talking about kicking people off Facebook and Twitter and people like Paul Joseph Watson. But if you give a platform to Nazis, as the Federation did with all the ethnoship, they will eventually turn to violence to start to start clearing out these things.
well-
So I mean, so if you give them a platform,
This is a direct
yes.
result of the ethnic
Yes,
shit.
violence and murder will always follow giving Nazis platforms.
Maybe it's because his ethno ship got destroyed. It's PTSD is part of his problem, right? Because he's He's one of 6 survivors out of 1,200.
Well, I'm sure if you want to make a defense for him, but let's just say that he's a racist who's a part of a racist group of people.
He just can't stand to see people be happy because...
And I would like to have seen... And do you really think that we would have these Vulcans going around killing...
I don't like to hear you guys talking about somebody who proudly served. I don't think that's...
We are
cool.
talking about a troop here.
You're right.
You
You're
are.
right.
That's some...
I'm sorry. I'm going to put out an official statement backtracking on this.
kind of...
The idea that it was a Vulcan was just like... It was written to shock viewers, but it was just so they could have those... But why is... Oh, he hates smiling Vulcans. It was literally the next thing on the fucking list. He gave himself... And I've had to... when you're in creative writing programs and you are a lazy procrastinator, you end up having to write a lot of shit the day before or the night before or the morning of, and you do give yourself like, okay, I gotta do this beat and this beat and this beat. I'll give myself this amount of time to literally come up with an idea, and then I'll just write, and then it was all so like you could just kind of see like I have to come up with an idea this quick. I have to do this quick. And
it worked out. For some reason, they thought I was smart with that last bullshit paper I turned in last minute. And I thought it sucked, but I got an A on it. Okay, I can keep doing this.
Yeah. So it was. I mean, it's a jobber script, and by someone was he fired? I don't know if he was fired.
No, he left. I think of his.
Then why is he just taking like?
Because you take the work you get. I mean, I think he left.
Not if you were running a show. Didn't he leave to run Andromeda?
That show turned into...
Yeah, but not in 1999.
After one season, they kicked him off, like, because of Kevin Sorbo's big head. And it was being run by, like, a...
Oh, so maybe that's
like
what
a
it was.
third-rate production company full of, like, rich, like, fail sons or something, and who wanted to produce...
Weren't they actually Gene Roddenberry's fail sons?
I don't think so. It was based on a
drum.
discarded script from Gene Roddenberry, but I
developed by his family. I mean, I'm not saying that he's the only fail son asshole on the set, but
right.
Yeah, I think that he was involved in the production of Andromeda. His oldest son.
Everything I've seen Robert Hewitt Wolf talk about it, he's like, no, it was made by these producers who had no writing experience whatsoever, but they were working on the show and decided that they wanted to write and had horrible ideas. And Kevin Sorbo also had horrible ideas and a big dick to swing around, and so it was just a clusterfuck of epic proportions. And he was basically written off or kicked off by the end of the second season.
Yeah, so like so I don't know. I guess maybe he was fucking hard up by this point, but like,
I mean, it's just doing his friends a favor, right? So I mean, it's not crazy that he'd come on and do
this is about how hard I work to do my friends favors.
Like, yeah,
I feel like I hit the good friend threshold just by showing up. So as long as I don't fucking leave, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think that he turned in a script on time. It's fun.
The Silence of the Lambs stuff is not great, but the performance makes it so much worse for me.
Yeah, well, that first scene isn't that atrocious.
Yeah. Do we want to break it down a little bit? Just go into the episode.
There's not much goes on in this episode. That's another problem with it.
Yeah, right. The setup is actually pretty good. I thought, like, before we get Duran, like, I mean, the names are a little bit like out of a noir Mrs. Peacock and Hector Ilario, who is a bit of a Lothario almost, the finest fighter pilot who was the helmsman on the Defiant, and they're given and so say all of us.
I got the feeling he was kind of he was in over his head, but he did a okay thing, so they were going to overpress. I mean, which is the thing that military does, and that I don't know.
They're talking him up, and like he won a great battle. He's only been there for 10 days. He's been on the Defiant for 7. Then we get the Alamo, like, hey, and they're like, anything you want. And can we talk about the homoerotic subtext between Julian and Miles?
Yes, it definitely sounded like they were fucking in the...
Yeah, like they've got we're very serious about our leisure activities. It's a great way to relax and relieve stress. Can I come? It's like, no. It's a very personal experience between Julian and I.
The Greco-Roman wrestling.
Yeah, they've got
Greece.
I have a holosuite visit. It's sort of a personal experience.
He's very particular about anybody seeing him in his coonskin cap.
And then they're like, all everybody else, have you been in there with them? Oh God, no, I would never want to go. So they're like,
I, Miles, would never fuck Julian, but I, Davey Crocket, would definitely fuck Jim Bowie.
right. We're not gay, we're cowboys.
We're just committing to the bit.
Right. They're like, oh, let's raise a glass to this class of 72 because boomers. Sorry. I mean, the dates just line up, but like, oh yeah, like I'm sure the class of 72, that probably lines up with.
My dad was class of 72.
Then they go off to the Hollow Suite to play in the Alamo, but then Dax and Kira are up drinking late, and then she's walking him back to his apartment.
Yeah, this had creepier. I think this has creepier vibes now than it did when it probably aired.
Oh, it most definitely read as creepy.
Because when they left it, I was like, did Julian and Dax just leave two women with a drunk guy they barely know? Like, that's what I thought. I was like, what kind of asshole friends is this? And then I
didn't read it that way because I read it.
Oh, I totally
read
did.
it as.
I thought that guy was going to put on the creepy moves.
Yes. You never leave a friend with a drunk guy they don't know.
Right. Well,
and it's framed as something like that parting words that he gave her before she left about being cute in the morning and he'll be sober.
That Winston Churchill quote.
He totally came on to her in an uncomfortable situation, and it's all framed as like a cute thing.
Well, see, this is where I would agree with you, except she was also kind of into it. Like, and not to say...
That's because the writers were writing it. Because the writers weren't writing that story, but the situation is uncomfortable to us.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on dates where I've been, she was drinking with him too, and it felt like, oh, I'm going to walk you home, and then sometimes like...
No, they have that weird moment where it's like, we've been trying to hint that we need to go for a while. So it seemed like there was they abandoned them with him. And I don't know. It was a weird moment.
It was weird.
But I agree with you. It wasn't intended to be weird. They weren't telegraphing anything.
Yeah. I don't think it was. I don't think it was supposed to be like it wasn't baked in on purpose.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Right.
No,
it
was just
felt
weird.
like just a single. Like I've been single more recently than you guys, but like it's. I mean, not.
But we've all made women uncomfortable when we're drunk, all right?
Yeah. To where, he's just like coming on to her, but he's not he's not touching her without consent or anything, or he's making a pass. And then she seems kind of into it, but she's like, oh, but she's I'm your superior basically too. And it's like, oh, maybe.
It's just one of those things where I think maybe it's a generational thing where I've since learned to not do that.
Right.
Don't leave women with drunk guys they don't know. If you're going to be a friend or chivalrous or what, other women don't leave women with a drunk guy. Because I've heard enough bad stories, and I think I've probably heard more than 1997 Robert Hugh Wolf. I don't know, because we talk about it more. Because we talk about it more now, and so I think it was just one of those things where it was like, you remember like during the pastiche of the first season of Mad Men when they would do they would throw trash on the street,
right,
or they let Sally play with a bag over her head in one episode, and you're just kind of like, different time. Or a neighbor. The one I remember is a neighbor's friend slapped another kid's kid, and it was cool with the dad, and I was like,
oh, you lived through the slap? Oh my god!
But so it was those things, and so I think it's just one of those social things that was like, this is a time.
Because she asked him if he wanted a drink instead of getting the fuck out of there, but she's being nice. She's like, oh, would you like a nightcap or Rectagino?
That was to get him sober. Do you need a cup of coffee?
I know. Yeah.
So, she was clearly played to be uncomfortable around him. Like, that was played up.
I don't know if she was. I don't know if I saw that. But because it seems like she was playful and like,
it's been time for a while for you to go home. Oh, this isn't my first drunk guy. I've had to cart home. This is my apartment. He flirts with her. She's like, well, I gotta go. I'm beat. I mean, those are all of the things that when you're trying to be nice to a guy, but he's making you uncomfortable.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm just sensitive because I've been that guy too often.
I think that Robert Hewitt Wolf was trying to hear you in this character. Like, I don't think he's played to be sinister or evil. I don't think this character would be written this way now, because I don't think it's a new thing. But so I don't think that's what are they doing? It was just it's kind of looking back.
I took Cisco to a bar on Belarus and drinking Sorry and Brandy gets you real drunk. But then he gets murdered. Oh no.
Yep.
And he's been killed with a chemically projectile weapon from a titanium bullet, a TR-116 rifle with a dampening field and radiogenic environmental scope or something.
Like, I don't know. If you've ever created a laser technology, like energy force regenerated technology, why would you ever go back to projectiles?
Oh, well, actually, I thought this was a nice bit of, it's like the weird guns that the Jim'Hadar have to prevent clotting, and they say exactly why they did it, because then if they're made for in a dampening field, that an energy dampening field where phasers won't work, or a radiogenic environment is when you would need a projectile bullet. And it was only in development; they never got released, and they were replaced with regenerative phasers because I guess that works better, and you're right. But the fact that this is a thing, I
guess I'm saying once you hack, like, technology doesn't really do well to go backwards unless you're in the shit. Like, if you you got to build the Iron Man suit in a cave or whatever. But like, generally, once you've developed a certain type of technology, you thwart defenses by going to more technological, not like, and then we have fixed our bayonets, like, it's kind of like nothing ever really.
Well, unless you're Dune and you have force fields and you have to stab slowly through them, or Fury Road where you can't have computer cars, you can make a combustion engine.
I mean, I guess Fury Road, like, it wasn't a futuristic society when that's a crisis. They're all living in Iron Man, Tony Stark's cave.
But the point is, like, sometimes a more blunt instrument there's less points of collapse.
That's fine.
Yeah. And anyways, it's just a test thing. They have replicator patterns that nobody can get unless they're Starfleet. So that's.
I bet in the circle of writers for Star Trek, the way that stand-up comedians always have a version of the aristocrats in their pocket, I bet it's wrote that every writer has to have a pet transporter cool thing idea.
Oh, totally.
Do you remember that great Breaking Bad episode where the guy's talking about, like, they're using the transporter to win an eating contest?
Oh, yeah.
I think there are certain times where you're watching a Star Trek episode and you're just like, why aren't they just using the transporter?
Yes. Yeah.
And if you think that enough, then you're going to come up with these types of stories. So having a gun that shoots transporter bullets is sort of a cool no-brainer. How it sees through walls is kind of weird. I guess your vision is transported too.
Super ethically dubious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because at one point Ezri just looks over the guy, uses it to look over his shoulder to see what he's looking at on his computer screen.
You're right.
Which is totally not cool.
I think it was a guy with his back to us sitting at the computer, and the first thing I thought is, he's jerking off. Like, she's going to watch this guy jerk off.
We know what he's doing.
He's at pawnfar.com, and he's just jerking it.
But no powder burns, and Odo's been reading 20th century crime novels, so he knows that.
My favorite thing was just Julian going, what are powder burns? And everybody going, don't you watch television?
Right. Julian and Dax have a, don't blame yourself in the moment over by the coffin. Yeah. Where she's like, I'm a doctor. I just can't comprehend what it's like to take a life. And she's like, I can. I've seen some shit. I was possessed by master magician Jeff Magnus McBride and then some other actor. And now this piece of shit guy.
That some other actor was Avery Brooks.
And then that's when the episode starts to suck for me. Never recovers.
Oh, well, this is where what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, show? Like,
he even sounds like a Buffalo Bill voice when he first talks, and then it moves to Hannibal Lecter later.
We should stop being afraid of me. It's not like we're strangers. Would you fuck me? I'd fuck you so.
I mean, it's silly that she has a chant that she can do to bring him online.
And if you thought that I didn't write it down, you would be wrong. But then somebody else dies. He's like, use me, do the Rite of Emergence. And she's like, no. But then Greta Van der Wig died. Like, okay, that's on the Orient Express or something.
Her name is Greta Van der Wig?
Yes.
And this was written in the 90s when Greta Van Susteren was all over cable television. That's cute. Yeah, because she was an OJ celebrity. That's what her rise to fame. And then she got a CNN show and then eventually went on to Fox.
Was she 37 back then with 12 years of service?
I don't know.
Then they have the Davey Crocket mythology of Davey Crocket, and some men back in the day eroticized their rifles and gave them female names, and maybe I'll name my tricorder Sally, and then figures out displaced targeting. Thanks, Davey Crocket and Julian, you're a genius. And
Yeah, look, I come from the Davy Crocket tall tales. As a kid raised in Tennessee, I didn't hear enough of those when I was a kid. No, that's great. That's fine.
best scene of the episode? I don't know.
Probably.
I guess when it dawns on O'Brien at
the
like
pie
how it's
tin
being
thing.
Yeah.
The pie tin thing.
The idea was that he was going to shoot a bullet at one of these pans, which would then ricochet to another, and then to another. And then to another,
that
and then
works
to
a little
another.
bit, I
Yeah.
guess. Because it mercifully moves the plot.
My favorite
Mercifully
thing is the clearly safety first protocols of the, like, he calls him into a room and he shoots a live bullet into the fucking room. Like a live, he tells them to put on safety goggles.
Safety glasses. All right, Mr.
Yeah,
Wizard.
they use safety goggles.
They should have whipped out that shield that Tony Stark uses. And it's like, what the fuck? You just fired a live round into the fucking room.
Right. And
And a pressurized capsule too. Like if you hit a window, we're all
right.
screwed.
Yeah.
I did like later on, actually, when the mad Vulcan shoots at Ezri through the walls, it does go through the walls, and it's like depressurized because there's gas coming through it. Like, that was actually a nice little touch there that, for a dumb episode.
They had to show that she was in definite peril.
Right.
Without, like...
But that showing that projectile weapons could pierce the hull and depressurize it was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. They didn't talk about it. It's just in effect.
And then O'Brien just fired one in willy-nilly.
Yeah, nice melon.
Yeah, I guess that when you get rid of guns for so long, you don't have gun nerds, but that's what I was thinking. Like, was there not... You junior officer, do you have your fucking head up your ass? You did not fire a service weapon with your feet.
Right. I mean, I've got enough NRA members in my family. Like, what's the first thing when somebody hands you a gun? Well, you check to see if it's loaded or not. Like, I've had that drilled in my head.
You fucking shit for brains? Are you?
You never. You keep it. Don't keep it pointed down and not towards people. And, whatever.
Gun nerds.
Yeah.
Yes.
We see Morn take home a prostitute, or just maybe not prostitute, but a scantily clad woman.
BDE. He hits those back walls, man.
He brings the couch wherever he goes.
Yeah. And then I'm still laughing.
I was overwhelmed with joke possibilities that they all passed me by. I didn't catch any of them.
That happens, man.
Happens to the best of us. Worf gets a moment. Worf's not awful. Like, he's been stalking her, and it's like, okay, well, way to be a creep and watch Ezri or go around. But then at the same time,
This station is lousy with security officers and cops.
yeah,
But we've got Ezri doing this.
right. How's your forensic psychology? It's like, oh, it's not my favorite subject.
That's what I like about Ezri, is that anytime you ask her about anything, she's like,
I don't know if I like. Yeah,
That's how she is about everything.
She is.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that she's a character actor put in a lead role maybe too many times.
Oh, I thought she was fine.
Oh, I didn't.
My problems weren't with her really so much as what.
Yeah, no, she wasn't the
she's
worst
fine
thing.
most of the time. She was not. This wasn't her best work. She was also playing off that Duran guy. Man, I can't say enough good things about him.
But I mean, just like any time that I get the feeling that she's probably like if you give her something like to play off of, she does really well. But the sort of spark that an ingenue has or a lead has, it's and it's hard to put your finger on what that is sometimes.
Terry Farrell had that same kind of issue when she was getting situated too. Like, it's like, what, you didn't give me to hang this on.
I
and
think
now
that
I'm
she's
just like,
probably even better. Like I'm saying that I think that like Ezri, like if you gave her like you play like you're playing a girl who's addicted to methamphetamines, but you really need to go to whatever. Like I think that she could do that because there's a lot going on there.
Oh yeah.
But like I think that if it's just like what you hire Chris Evans to do. Be an underwritten character that just people like. Yeah, that just people like. When you hire Chris Evans, that's what you get. And that's like she keeps getting put into these kinds of like roles, and they don't have from the writing perspective, they don't have anything on them. It's kind of like that's what a lead does,
Right.
Carries things through the force of personality, and she's not doing that in this episode.
Worf gets a weird, just like a cameo, but it makes sense for his character. Like, he's still a little bit fucked up over his wife getting murdered. He's a little bit overprotective of this Dax. And then he gives her a pep talk. It's like, you'll do it because that is your way or whatever. But
now that Odo's out of the penalty box, now Worf is just Jadzia's grieving husband.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
She does the Rite of Emergence where she's Inora, Jakella, Voq. Voq. Oh, look, Voq. There's that word again. I'm sorry. So Ezri, Zion, Tara.
Oh my fucking god! I totally forgot about the whole first season of. Is that a thing they do, or is it like why? Like that's a weird mechanic.
It all goes back to that one where all our favorite actors play her different hosts.
But I didn't think that was like. I thought that was like a one. I thought that was like a one-time thing or something, like going into the.
It was supposed to be, but then they had so much fun with it. They're like, well, we should go to her past lives more often.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did it again with Duran and that other episode, right? Except Sisko
that was like they set up different rules each time they've done this. The mask thing was just in her dreams. The other thing was like a rite or ritual that they do,
right?
Where they put these people in so that they can readdress the people, but it's like fake. Like it's I don't know. I didn't understand the mechanic. I guess they're possessed by some sort of magic spirit. I don't.
Yeah. They shoot their brain engrams onto another person and take.
Why does DS9 always double down on their worst ideas?
They always do without fail. I guarantee you, if this went clear into season 12, Duran and Ezri would have teamed up 3 other times to solve other murders.
There would be more sex change Quark.
Speaking of worst impulses, they do keep alive. They have a kind of subplot going through the season between who's gonna get Ezri. Is it gonna be Julian or Duran says like Quark? I don't know what you see in him, and like they're keeping alive.
Yeah, maybe Ezri as a prize to be won is just so unfortunate.
It's not so much that they have I don't know who's responsible for changing it, but it seems that they have this worst instinct, and we all know it comes from Rick Berman. They want to sexualize the females, like really bad. And that's what they really want to do. But with Dax, it sort of worked because it went from being sexualized to somehow being sexuality, and that's different. Like that's giving the character depth and something in her life. Like that's fleshing out a character. Whereas and I feel like with Ezri, it's hard to put your finger on, but I feel that somehow like she's still like uncomfortably sexualized, and it's because everybody's talking about fucking her. They're going after her almost just because she's Dax, not because she's Ezri. It's not because she's hot. It's because she's got a worm in her belly that they have a crush on, which is kind of weird, I guess.
I mean, that's better than just like she's hot, hubba hubba. But they don't spare an opportunity to say, oh, you're attractive.
I don't even think that. But I don't know. Why do you want to fuck a worm? Like I don't like that. A half a person. I don't know. It's just a very weird. They haven't. If that's what they're doing, then dig into that because at least like flesh it out so that it's a full idea. But
right. They're attracted to the worm, but also like they can't help but sexualize this young actress.
Yeah, so they had to, and so that's really the only way that they're doing it. I feel like, and I don't know, and I hope it's not just me just looking, but I feel like that the camera is always down her shirt a lot.
I didn't catch that, but
I feel like there's constant like I'm trying.
I'll be on the lookout for it now. Though.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know, but I feel like that and then everybody's talking about fucking her. They put her in those situations where you're beautiful and like a handsy guy in the room, and Worf sexual tension. I feel like there's all of
They're
this.
always doing that.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. It's very off-putting, and like they're doing it so much, and I'm. You're already kind of disengaged because you spent so much long time with Jadzia, and now I got to get used to this, and we know it's the end, so don't get too used to it. Mm-hmm. But they're having to do it a lot just to have her go over, and I feel like I'm constantly watching it from Nicole DeBoer's perspective and not Ezri's, where I'm constantly kind of going in my mind thinking about like Nicole DeBoer, the person who didn't grow in with this cast, is just having to watch like herself get put in these goofy ass stories, and I wonder, like what she was thinking, and everybody's talking about and then she has to be a lesbian for a rogue lesbian for an episode. It's very, I don't know. It seems very weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, she was probably just happy to get that kind of work. But you're totally right.
Yeah, but I'm sure she had some really saucy tweets with her girlfriends about look at these fucking gross man nerds. What was the shirt that Ira Stephen Bear was always shown when they did photo shoots during their run?
Oh, nobody knows I'm a lesbian.
I'm a lesbian. It's the guy who wears that shirt is her boss.
Right, right. And who knows what kind of awkward casting meetings she had with Rick Berman.
Yeah. So and that's one thing that I'm constantly thinking of. And I think the show if it's not the show's fault, they're helping me constantly think of that by putting her in these kinds of situations and not really giving her a lot of character other than to be a sex trophy, which is a shame.
They're giving her some camaraderie stuff, but she's mostly that,
She comes off to me like what I probably wanted a girlfriend to be when I was 16. Like she comes off like
I'm sorry, I'm just remembering a girl you had a crush on in high school that had a similar haircut to
Oh yeah, but no, I mean this like sort of doe-eyed, open, emotional, responsive, a little bit fragile, so you can be chivalrous in protecting her, a little bit saucy so that you're not bored, and so that she's engaging, and it seems like that's the kind of girl that a young guy wants, like a young guy that maybe don't get a lot of girls, like nerds that write for Star Trek probably idealize girls like that. No, but
sure.
And I mean, and let's just point out that she's humoring a kind of nerdy guy at the beginning of this episode. So that's a thing. And
sure. And
so I keep coming off, and that's why I called her a manic pixie dream girl, but I also kind of that's more of what she is that she's not her own thing, she doesn't she farts. Like she looks like she's really into the same music you're into, or whatever. She looks like
I don't know. Yeah.
She looks like a projection of a girl and not a girl.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and part of her whole character is that she's not sure who she is too, and being like a guy is like, well, I can tell you who you are. I'm a guy that knows exactly things, and you're the insecure girl, and I find that attractive. So yeah.
Put it this way, when a young man realizes that when a girl comes to you with thinks that when a girl comes with you with problems, you need to help her, and she looks like a girl that needs help. Older guys know that when a girl comes to you with problems, you just shut the fuck up and listen. Right. And I think, and don't try to help them. And that's sort of, I don't know. I feel like these guys haven't made it to that point in a relationship. Yeah, it's not ruining the character for me. It's just something that I'm kind of noticing with her, and that's baggage that I'm carrying.
Right.
Yeah.
We get a Harry Potter picture from Greta van der Vig. We learn that her husband is a micropaleontologist on Mora 5. The guy that's running away in Quark's bar, she tackles him, and because she's got a Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, yeah.
Hannibal Lecter, I think you said.
Yeah, I call him Hannibal Lecter.
So in that scene, that was the scene in Silence of the Lambs where Scott Glenn calls Clarice in and goes, "It's getting into your head. You're getting too..." That was exactly that scene. Like, you gotta...
She's going to stab him in the eye if they didn't pull her off.
Oh my God, it was in 1,000 90s movies where you get into the mind of a killer, but do you start becoming a killer?
But can you come back?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I got to get rid of you. Inora, Jakala Vok, Zima Dax, Na Zasayan, Deza, Bazist, Joran Rijer. Hey, da. Sorry. I'm sorry. She says that a bunch, but it doesn't work. And he's like, you can't get rid of me. And the fucking effects in the mirror where he fades away, but then he's right by her shoulder. But then we learn that there's been another murder, and this time it's a Bolian, Zim Brott. Been there for 5 years. Going back to something that we talked about in the previous episode, where are the poly couples? The Bolians also are, he has a wife and a co-husband on Belarus. So he's some weird poly race, or maybe they have...
Oh, really?
Yeah, a wife and a co-husband.
Wife and a co-husband. Interesting.
And a bunch of ugly children.
They look like blue walnuts, so yeah.
And then that's when Ezri puts it together. They're all laughing faces, and then
the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard in my life. He hates people who smile. Fucking smilers.
Right.
My whole life I've had to put up with those fucking smilers.
Oh, now you're thinking like he thinks. Oh, good. we get more numbers. There's 48 Vulcans on DS9 out of the 900 Starfleet officers, I presume. And out of those 48, 28 have suffered a great loss because he must have suffered a great loss because he hates emotion and happiness. And then, it's not just that. It's the way the photo freezes the emotion, like the laughter will last forever. Oof. Yes. And then they're going into a habitat ring on level 55, K55. And then, what luck should have it, there's a Vulcan that gets on the same transport with her and Duran, Chulak. And he's aged 97. And he was on the USS Grissom, which was taken out by Jim Hadar ships and Richter Prime. And he was one of 6 survivors out of 1,250. And Duran is like, it's him, I know it. And she's like, shut up. And the guy's like, are you talking to me? And then she goes to watch him, his porn habits over his shoulder and learns out, like, what's he looking at? Oh my God, it's me. Oh no. And then...
So I guess Duran was right. I guess that's why she called him along. I mean, he actually helps, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they tack on that bullshit like theme, like you're gonna be better because you let me into your life and don't block me away.
Right.
Like a little bit of killer is gonna be something in you. Don't let it. That's so. It was kind of like it's that bullshit that like old drunk abusive dads always say to their estranged kids. I might not have been the best father, but I was there. No, you weren't. But it was like I might be a serial killer, but I'm part of you that you need. She goes, not really. Just when a contrived plot makes it so.
Right. And then it ends with...
I mean, she's not Will Graham. She doesn't work for the FBI. Like, the only reason she was put on this case was whatever. I don't know. But, like...
Ezri, Hela Balashe, Nora, Simdax, Zasaya, Desire, Bazist, Duran Re, blah, 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 blah. The end. Oof.
So did they just like? I get the feeling that these episodes, where we're down on this episode, and I've been generally down on season 7, but one of the things it seems that we're in particularly a bad stretch of season 7, and it seems to be because it's like Ira Stephen Bear just shouted out movies and Ezri like to several writers and go, you tell the Godfather 2, you tell the Robert De Niro parts of Godfather 2 with Ezri. You tell Han Solo, but lesbian Han Solo, but with Ezri. You do, and it just went through.
Right.
And then
we just introduced her this season. We got to integrate her to the cast where everybody gets to love her with all these in-depth episodes exploring. I was like, but they all suck.
Yeah. And so it's all like you go through these pastiche of Ezri throughout the movies, like right. Ezri's Indiana Jones in this one. Ezri is Tucker, a man in his dream in this episode.
Right. This is the Dallas Ezri episode. Going home.
I feel like they're doing that, and I don't. Yeah, it's not working. This is some of the. This is just a bad sort of like, and it's not doing her any favor either. It's not Ezri's fault.
Right.
Or it's not Nicole DeBoer's fault that these episodes are bad. These episodes are bad because the ideas are bad.
I don't even know if all the ideas are as bad as the execution is worse than the ideas for me.
I mean, doing movies is a bad idea. Mm-hmm. So it's bad.
Yeah.
Doing Silence of the Lambs on Deep Space Nine is not a good idea.
That's like bad seasons of Law and Order do that. Not even good seasons of Law and Order do that. But like bad, so you're now at this Star Trek stock and trade was its creativity of the stories that you're getting. And so
right.
And then when you're just doing like JAG episode, like, and also can we point out that Silence of the Lambs was 8 years before? It's like if someone had pitched an Inception plot. We go in dreams, but it's a little different. Or like Dark Knight. I want a Heath Ledger type Joker character comes in, and our character has to interact with that. It's like that should be the definition of hack in 19 when this episode was pitched.
I think they're like I mean, it is that hack shit, but I don't think the starting point is just give me Silence of the Lambs. They're like, what is it about Ezri? Oh, she's got all these people living in her. Oh, one's a serial killer. Oh, that's a great. Oh, I got it. Oh, we're gonna do something with that. Well, we're gonna Silence of the Lambs it. There you go. And they think they're exploring the character, but it's just like it's not. It's not great.
Probably this could be fixed by not having 20-something episode seasons, and this is one of those. This could go in those cases of like this is why. Because Iris even embarrassed.
Is this why people think Babylon 5 is better than Deep Space Nine? Is because they did their own thing?
Probably,
like,
and it was written by a real writer. I'm sorry, guys, but like this is a committee situation.
Right.
One of several of them have bad tendencies, and they all have some bad tendency, but some of them have more than others. And where I think I haven't watched Babylon 5, but J. Michael Straczynski is pretty good.
And I think he had it plotted out like a novel from the beginning or something.
Yeah.
Even though like I think their 5th season's supposed to jump the shark pretty hard too.
I think those 5 seasons.
Yeah, but they never had an episode where they just did Interview with a Vampire.
But they knew what even if it went off the rails, he knew what he was aiming towards. Probably.
And to be honest, for some reason, I would almost forgive it more if it was ripping off something from last year, something that was still in its first quakes of the zeitgeist. Like if someone did a Endgame themed episode of, I don't know, name some dumb show, I don't care, Modern Family or Discovery or something. Like you almost like forgive it because it's you almost like you're jumping on a bandwagon, but hey, that's how you pay the bills. Where ripping off a plot so blatantly, so far, like after it initially hit, there's no real dollars in it. It's just hacky.
I still think it's more of like just doing a noir episode and then hitting those.
It's awful. Silence of the Lambs is a unique structure of a story, and this is exactly that.
But it's a whodunit for first and foremost, and then
so is Silence of the Lambs.
But it's like it's a murder mystery. They even set up like, oh, it must be an officer. Is it one of us? It's like trying to.
That's Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, but this is more like a 1920s crime novel. I need
to get into the mind of a killer to catch another killer.
But this one has a young woman as the one to. But James, this one has a young woman that's looking for the killer.
Like they even meet on accident in this. Like the final sequence happens with Green. Like it's 100%. Cisco is the Scott Glenn character.
No, James.
I'm not saying that it's not in there. I'm just saying that
I'm saying it ain't. No, it's 100%.
This one has a woman that needs a serial killer to help her though.
It's a bundle of tropes and of crime novels and yes, and definitely taking
it's not a bundle. It's one specific bundle.
I think it's also like a number of other whodunits and then also Silence of the Lambs. You're saying it's starting from Silence of the Lambs, and it's a case to be made, but okay.
Amazing. I think that's a good place. We should. Okay, what's your rewatch meter?
Oh my god,
that's probably what we should do.
No, this is, I'll never watch this episode again.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to put it back at a 1.
All of the scenes where she's like, oh, I get this, like, it could have been weirder and more interesting because like when they're looking in people's rooms, which, my God, they let this technology just out among the staff of I don't know, which is probably real. I mean, our military would let, just
right.
Young officers have all kinds of like data sharing shit, but like they let her a thing that looks into people's into their private bedrooms.
Well, she's like the main high staff, like she's part of the
that's not cool.
It's not cool, but yeah.
I don't want to work in a place where anybody can vicariously watch me masturbate. I mean, that's fucking awful. I can't think of anything worse than like something that exists so that perverts can look at women in the shower
James,
and masturbate.
Do you have? I just want to check to make sure that you have tape over your camera on your computer because
I'm just saying that that's a I mean, I'm saying that we live in Hell World. Is this set in Hell World? So anyway, so that barring that whole issue, there was a while where I was like, This episode could veer into like body double De Palma territory, which is something more interesting like than this, and where like she likes to watch or something, you know. But no, they don't even do that. They could turn her sexualizing into sexuality, which would be interesting, but no, they're not doing that.
This is the first time that the three of us have, like, Wade is a 1 on this, and I'm a 0.
Yeah, I'm
you're
a
a
0.
0. That's as low as it gets for us.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a collectively low opinion.
Yeah, I had another one a little ways back, so but I can't remember what it was.
I think it was the soccer episode.
No, I mean like 2 or 3 episodes back this season. I had a 1.
Oh,
probably the Ezri goes home.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, that was.
You guys want to guess what the good people of IMDb think of this episode?
I don't think.
I think they like it a lot more than we do. Not a lot necessarily.
Guess then. Give me a number if you think that.
I'm working on it.
I'll say 6.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's gonna go 6.2.
It's a 6.8.
Yep. Tell you. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, that's not good.
No, it's
but
not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not. It's a little bit below average, but it's not like a bad. Yeah.
I think it gets a 0.5 bump because it's Ezri. It's a bad episode with Ezri. It's not like like you never had to watch like the troll people jack off their ears or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to watch Ezri for like,
I think
most of it.
Yeah,
so.
I think people liked I think the nerds liked the idea of like a teleportation gun because I think it is a clever gimmick. And if it were just a murder mystery without the Silence of the Lambs stuff, I could see how this might be a fine enough episode actually of a murder mystery, murder plot. But that, like I said, Duran really ruins it for me.
It's a Vulcan who's killing people who smile in pictures.
No, just the whodunit and the invisible teleportation gun. I don't think the Vulcan is what bumped up the score, but I think
No, it's just a really dumb reason to be murdering people. It's not even I don't know. Yeah.
He's a troop with PTSD, man. It's not cool. We have to be.
Yeah, but like it's not like he's shooting. I mean, I don't know. There's no story to it.
No, there's not.
There's not like there's no like he's not shooting people that were this.
There's no point of view. Like he doesn't have a point of view. Like his whole reason is logic dictates it. That's the laziest thing you could have.
Right. He's just a foaming at the mouth crazy person, but with green blood. Like, yeah.
Do you guys have any other final thoughts on this episode?
Next week is Khmer.
I know nothing about next week's episode.
Yeah. Mark. I mean, it's more Martok, but without Martok.
I
think he actually acts under a pseudonym in it. Jarmon Hertzler. Yes. Yeah, he actually acts under a pseudonym.
All right.
Yeah. So I watched this episode a month ago. I'm tentatively saying that I think I might like this one.
Okay. So I'm ready to get out of Dax episodes and swinging into the end game, as it were.
Yes. I am. I mean, this has been just a massive plot hold. Like, I mean, at some point, maybe Ezri was the middle, like a space holder.
Right.
Like you had to like start the end game in the first couple episodes, and then obviously you pay it off at the end. And what do you do in the middle? Just write a bunch of episodes. Just go to Blockbuster, pick 15 movies and put Ezri in them. Like
people don't know her. They need to get to know this character. So do that in the middle with these filler episodes.
Fun to watch, guys. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So and then we have Chimera, and then 2 weeks from now we have Bada Bing, Bada Boom, which I'm sure everybody's looking forward to our gushing excitement about.
Yeah, they know we can't get enough Vic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wade, do you want to throw us out outro?
Oh yeah, all right. So yeah, if you got thoughts, let us know them. Give us a call at 917-408-3898. If you want to get our opinions on other stuff, where we talk about Game of Thrones and Endgame, you should go check out the Kickers of Elves Patreon at patreon.com/Kickers of Elves and give us some money because I'm going to need it. Because I'm going to be a dad. But,
Hey, congratulations.
But,
Keeping him in diapers. We're potting for diapers here.
Yeah, right. So, oof. But, we want to make it work through a while, so we try to put stuff up there for people to listen to and look us up on.
Of course you're doing cloth diapers, right? I mean, it would be...
No, we're going to do that thing where it's like the Chinese do it, where you train your baby to when it's going to shit, so you can just hold it over a trash can.
Oh yeah, they do that at a
restaurant.
They do that at a restaurant here in Memphis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's.
We've eaten there.
You have eaten there. It's delicious.
Oh okay.
There's something went viral in a restaurant here where a baby who was free training.
Oh
shit! In the middle of this was the owner's baby. Shat in the middle of the restaurant, and it got on Yelp, and it was funny, and everybody was passing it around for a while.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago.
It was a big tweet. You remember that?
It was
tweet?
a big Twitter thing. Yeah.
And then James, when I went to go visit him, we just.
Yeah, I was like,
was it good?
Yeah,
it was delicious.
It really was. There's not a ton of vegan options here. It was a vegan.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it was the
Of course it was.
Mm-hmm.
I bet that kid's not vaccinated too.
Ooh. Well, anyway, we should probably out.
Yeah, I think we just did.
All right, 3 to beam out.
It doesn't pay to try. All the smart boys know why. It doesn't mean I didn't try. I just never know why. Don't try.